My boyfriend and his friends secretly ranked their girlfriends by income and assets. Then they accidentally added me to their private group chat. My name is Evelyn Hart. I'm 31 years old, and until Tuesday afternoon, I would have described my relationship as boring in the best possible way. Ryan Cole and I had been together for 2 years and living together for 6 months. We met at a brewery after a co-worker convinced me to go out on a Friday night when all I wanted was takeout and sleep. Ryan was 29, funny without trying too hard, worked in marketing, and somehow talked to me for 20 minutes before asking what I did for a living. That detail mattered more than I realized. I make around $140,000 a year as a software engineer, plus bonuses depending on the year, while Ryan makes roughly $65,000. We never pretended our incomes were equal, so we divided household expenses proportionally, and I never resented paying the larger share. Ryan never seemed uncomfortable with the arrangement either. At least, he never gave me a reason to think he was. I had a group of male friends he jokingly called his book club since before we met. They got together every other Wednesday, supposedly discussed whatever book they'd chosen, then usually moved on to whiskey, sports, and everything else. I encouraged it because I thought separate friends and interests were healthy. I trusted him. Tuesday afternoon, I was working from home when my phone buzzed with a notification from a group called Book Club Boys. I'd heard Ryan mention it before, but I'd never been part of their chat. The first message was from Marcus. Updated spreadsheet is live. Don't forget to rate this month's metrics. I assumed they were talking about investments until Dylan replied. Already updated mine. Added the vacation property her parents own. Engagement by Christmas is looking smarter, lol. That made me stop working. I opened the Google Sheets link near the top of the chat. The document was titled Investment Portfolio Analysis, which sounded harmless until I saw the names inside. There were 6 women listed, including me. The columns tracked occupation, estimated annual income, assets, property, long-term potential, and an overall rating. My row read, Evelyn Hart, software engineer, 140k base plus bonuses, 2021 Audi, strong 401k, no property yet, 8-5-10. Then I saw the notes. Good earner, very stable, too cautious with money, needs push toward home ownership for maximum long-term ROI. Return on investment. My boyfriend had rated me like a mutual fund. The other entries were just as detailed. One woman, a dentist, received a 7 because her family money could create complications, while a public school teacher got a 6 because her income ceiling was considered too low. Another woman had recently launched a business. Her boyfriend described her as high upside if company succeeds, risky until revenue stabilizes. Then the messages started coming again. Marcus wrote, Ryan, lock Evelyn down before she realizes she's probably the strongest portfolio here. Ryan answered, believe me, I'm working on it. Dylan complained that his girlfriend preferred experiences to property. Like cool, babe, but Paris doesn't appreciate 8% a year. Another guy said his girlfriend was still trying to turn her side business into a career and that he was giving her 6 more months before he reassessed. Ryan replied, cut your losses if it isn't going anywhere. We're not 22 anymore. That was when I understood this wasn't some drunken joke they'd made once and forgotten. They had categories, ratings, updates, and apparently monthly discussions. Someone asked who was currently bottom tier. The answer came quickly. Teacher girl, great person, but mathematically, it's hard to justify long-term, already checking other options. That woman probably thought her boyfriend loved her while he was quietly searching for someone with better numbers. Then Ryan started talking about me again. Had the property conversation with Evelyn again. She's still weird about buying just because rates might move. Marcus answered, aim it as building a future together. Ryan, that's what I've been doing. Ryan had brought up buying a house several times over the previous 4 months. He always framed it gently. We were getting older, we should build something together, and wouldn't it be nice to have a backyard? I'd thought those conversations meant he pictured a future with me. Now I was reading the strategy behind them. Marcus wrote, women get weird when they realize you're thinking numbers. They want everything to be about feelings. Dylan agreed that financial compatibility was part of love. Then Ryan wrote the sentence that ended our relationship before he knew it was over. Evelyn thinks I'm with her because I love her. And I do, but I also love what being with her could mean financially. I'm not stupid. I read it 3 times while the room around me seemed to sharpen, the computer humming, the air conditioner clicking on, a delivery truck reversing outside. 2 years of birthdays, holidays, family dinners, and plans suddenly looked different. That didn't make every memory between us meaningless, but it changed what I thought those conversations about our future had meant. The conversation moved to their Wednesday meeting. Marcus wrote, "Tomorrow in Q4 relationship strategy. Bring updates. Whiskey at mine." Dylan wanted to discuss engagement timelines, moving in, and joint accounts. Ryan answered, "Agreed. Evelyn's the main one I need to push toward a property. Once that happens, everything else gets easier." Then I noticed the member count. 7 people, Ryan, 5 of his friends, and me. Someone had added the wrong contact. I could have quietly left and confronted Ryan when he came home, but I kept thinking about the teacher whose boyfriend was already looking for other options. She deserved to know what was being said about her, and so did the other women. I opened the group information, wrote down every name, and searched Ryan's Instagram. Within 40 minutes, I had identified the 5 other girlfriends through couple photos, birthday posts, and vacation tags. One had posted 3 days earlier. 3 years with my favorite person. I went back to the group chat. They were still talking as if none of us would ever see it. I typed, "Hey, book club, thanks for adding me. Really appreciate the transparency, gentlemen. The spreadsheet is especially impressive. You clearly put a lot of work into evaluating your girlfriend's financial performance." The typing bubbles stopped. I continued, "Since we're apparently treating relationships like investment portfolios, I figured the other investments deserved access to their quarterly reports too." Then I added, "P.S. Ryan, I actually have been looking at houses, just not with you anymore." I hit send. For several seconds, the chat was silent. Then Ryan appeared. Through Evelyn. Marcus. Holy shit. Dylan. Ryan. Evelyn, call me now. Before anyone could delete anything, I saved screenshots of the spreadsheet, ratings, messages about engagements, and conversations about replacing girlfriends. Then I opened each woman's profile and prepared the messages. I sent all 5 women the same thing. "You don't know me, but our boyfriends have been rating us financially in a private group chat. I was added by accident. You deserve to see this before anyone deletes it." I attached the evidence and sent the messages. Ryan called almost immediately. I declined. He called again, then texted, "Please don't do anything else. You don't understand what you're looking at. We need to talk." Maybe we did. But by the time Ryan came home, I had already pulled the first empty moving box from the closet. And I wasn't packing my things. Ryan called 6 more times while I packed his clothes, but I ignored everyone. By the last call, his messages had shifted from confusion to panic. "Evelyn, please answer me. You don't understand what that chat was." A second message followed. "Please tell me you didn't send those screenshots to everyone." I didn't respond. He had spent months discussing my income, assets, and future like something he needed to manage, and now he was terrified the other women knew. The first reply came from Natalie, the teacher who had been rated 6 out of 10. "Is this real? Did they actually make this spreadsheet?" I sent her the screenshots around her rating. A minute later, she wrote, "He told me last week he wanted us to start saving for a wedding." Ryan had been doing almost the same thing to me, talking about houses and our future while privately calculating what that future was worth. Another woman messaged me, then another. Within half an hour, every girlfriend I'd identified knew. The book club boys' chat had become chaos. Marcus blamed Dylan. Dylan demanded to know who had added me. And Ryan kept typing my name as if repeating it could undo what I'd seen. I saved one final screenshot and left the group. Ryan came home a little after 6, nearly an hour earlier than usual. I heard his key in the lock before he called my name from the hallway. "Evelyn." I closed the box in front of me and walked toward him. His face changed when he saw the boxes stacked beside the wall. "What are you doing?" "Packing your things." He glanced toward his bedroom. "You're throwing me out over a stupid group chat. I'm ending our relationship because you and your friends have been assigning financial ratings to the women you're supposed to love." Ryan rubbed both hands over his face. "It wasn't like that. You gave me an 8.5. That was a joke. You wrote that I needed to be pushed into buying property to maximize long-term ROI. I had no immediate answer. Finally, he said, Marcus made the spreadsheet. Marcus didn't fill in my row. No, but he started it. It was just something stupid the guys did. How long? Ryan looked away. A few months. I showed him a screenshot dated almost a year earlier. His expression answered before he did. Evelyn, listen to me. We weren't sitting around plotting how to use you. You literally had quarterly relationship goals. That sounds worse than it was. It sounds exactly like what it was. Ryan stepped closer and lowered his voice. I love you. Those words used to mean everything to me. Now I could only hear what he'd written after them. I know. You love me, and you also love what being with me could mean financially. His face went pale. You saw that? I saw everything. Ryan sat on the edge of the couch and stared at the floor. I shouldn't have written that. You shouldn't have thought it. That isn't fair. Financial compatibility matters in a serious relationship. Wanting stability isn't the problem. Ranking your girlfriend against your friend's girlfriends is. Ryan shook his head. Every guy talks about his relationship with his friends. Do they maintain spreadsheets? Hein didn't answer. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Natalie had sent another message. It's over. He admitted he's been checking dating apps because he thinks he can do better financially. I turned the screen toward Orion. There's your harmless guy talk. His expression hardened. You shouldn't have involved everyone else. Until then, he'd sounded ashamed. Now he sounded angry. You're upset that I told them? Those conversations were private. They were conversations about us. That doesn't give you the right to blast screenshots everywhere. I was accidentally added to the chat, Ryan. I didn't hack your phone or steal your password. You still knew you weren't supposed to be there. And Natalie wasn't supposed to know her boyfriend was searching for her replacement? That's between them. The moment I saw it, she deserved to know. Ryan paced toward the window. Do you understand what you've done? Marcus's girlfriend is threatening to leave him. Dylan's girlfriend won't answer him. And Natalie already dumped Chris. Sounds like they read what their boyfriends wrote. You caused this. No, I showed them what was already happening. His jaw tightened. You could have come to me first and given everyone time to delete the evidence. Ryan said nothing. That silence answered the question. Where am I supposed to go? He asked. Stay with Marcus. His girlfriend just kicked him out. Then your book club can finally meet somewhere full-time. Ryan stared at me. You're enjoying this. No, I would have preferred finding out that Wednesday nights were actually about books. His anger faded. We can fix this. I don't think we can. 2 years, Evelyn. You're throwing away 2 years over one stupid mistake. A spreadsheet maintained for almost a year isn't one mistake. Ryan stepped closer. Tell me what you want me to do. Take your things and leave. His eyes filled and he reached for my hand. I was going to propose. I pulled my hand back. I already started looking at rings, he said. Under any other circumstances, those words would have changed everything. Now they made the spreadsheet feel even more calculated. Was that part of your Q4 relationship strategy? His face tightened. Don't do that. Was it? No. Then why did Marcus write engagement timelines in the chat? Ryan looked down. I carried the final box from the bedroom and placed it with the others. Take what you can tonight and come back tomorrow for the rest. At the door, he stopped. You're going to regret making this public. I didn't make your words exist, Ryan. I just stopped keeping them secret for you. I left. Less than 10 minutes later, Natalie posted the first public screenshot. Apparently, I'm a 6'10" because I'm a teacher. Good to know before I married him. By midnight, another girlfriend had posted her rating. By the next morning, the spreadsheet was no longer private. Neither were their relationships. The reactions were brutal. Natalie explained that she'd spent months feeling guilty because her teaching salary wasn't enough for Chris, while Lauren discovered she'd been rated a 7 because of family money complications. Ryan called twice that morning, but I ignored him. Marcus then sent a message accusing me of humiliating 6 men over conversations nobody else was meant to see. I deleted it. Around noon, Ryan returned with Marcus and Dylan to collect the rest of his belongings. I'd packed everything carefully near the door, but Marcus walked in looking ready for a fight. You realize what you did was completely out of line, right? He said. Those were private conversations between friends. Did Natalie give Chris permission to search dating apps while discussing marriage with her? Marcus's expression tightened. Dylan stepped in. Nobody committed a crime here. Guys talk about relationships, money, careers, and whether someone is compatible long-term. Talking about compatibility isn't the problem. You built a spreadsheet and ranked women against each other. Ryan picked up a box. Can we just get my stuff and leave? Marcus muttered that I'd destroyed 6 relationships in one night. Those relationships couldn't have been very secure if screenshots of your own words were enough to destroy them. Nobody answered. Ryan returned alone for the last box and stopped beside the door. Do you really intend never to speak to me again? I don't know what happens years from now, but right now I don't trust you and I won't build a relationship with someone I don't trust. He left without another argument. 20 minutes later, Ryan's mother called. I almost didn't answer because I assumed he'd asked her to convince me I'd overreacted. Diane surprised me immediately. Don't apologize to me. My son is an idiot. Ryan had apparently shown his parents some screenshots, expecting them to agree that I'd violated his privacy. Instead, they spent nearly an hour asking why their 29-year-old son thought ranking his girlfriend's financial potential was acceptable. He keeps saying he loves you, Diane said. I told him loving someone doesn't give you permission to calculate what they're worth to you. Then she told me Ryan had asked her to convince me to take him back. She refused. You were good to him, Evelyn. Don't let him convince you that discovering the truth was somehow worse than what he did. Later that evening, Sophie messaged me. She had been dating one of Ryan's friends for almost 4 years, and they had already looked at engagement rings together. Her boyfriend's notes described her as a strong, long-term option because she'd recently received a promotion and was likely to inherit property from her grandmother. I was expecting him to propose next month, she wrote. You probably saved me from marrying someone who was calculating my inheritance before my grandmother is even dead. I told her I was sorry she'd learned the truth this way. She replied, painful information is still better than a comfortable lie. More messages followed. Some women thanked me, while others were still deciding whether their relationships could survive what they'd read. Then Natalie told me the men had started blaming each other. Marcus blamed Dylan for posting too much detail. Dylan blamed Chris for mentioning dating apps, while Chris blamed whoever had accidentally added me. Ryan blamed Marcus for creating the spreadsheet. 6 men who had confidently rated their girlfriends on loyalty, income, assets, and long-term potential couldn't survive 24 hours of being evaluated themselves. That night, Marcus posted a statement claiming private conversations had been taken out of context. He described the group chat as a safe place for friends to discuss relationship concerns without mentioning the ratings or the conversations about replacing girlfriends. The comments turned on him quickly. Someone asked what context made Wood 6'10" because she's a teacher. Reasonable. Another asked why a safe conversation between friends required monthly metrics. Marcus deleted the post less than an hour later. Ryan disappeared from social media for a while. His Instagram went private, and the couple photo of us pinned at the top of his page vanished. Seeing it gone hurt more than I expected. That photograph had been real to me, but the problem wasn't whether every good memory had been fake. The problem was that I couldn't unsee how Ryan talked about me when he thought I would never hear it. Just before midnight, Natalie sent one more message. They're having an emergency book club meeting tomorrow. It wasn't about books or apologies. It was damage control. The next morning, Ryan started trying to control the story. He posted a short statement saying private conversations had been exposed without consent and people were judging something they didn't understand. He never mentioned the spreadsheet or the ratings. The comments forced him to delete it by noon. That afternoon, he showed up at my apartment building without warning. I refused to let him upstairs, and after nearly 10 minutes of buzzing my unit, building security asked him to leave. His final text said, I just want 5 minutes to explain. The following day, Aaron called me. Ryan's telling people you hacked into his phone, he said. I know that's not what happened, but he's desperate. I saved every screenshot and backed everything up. The notification showing I'd been added to the group was still there, along with messages sent while I was visibly a member. Ryan posted again the next morning. Sometimes the person you trust most can betray you in ways you never expected. Privacy matters, and I'm learning who my real friends are. Hein didn't use my name, but everyone knew who he meant. Several people asked why he was talking about privacy instead of explaining the ratings. Ryan eventually disabled the comments. 2 days later, he escalated. Ryan wrote that income differences could create unhealthy power dynamics and suggested he'd participated in those conversations because he felt financially controlled in our relationship. That was the first accusation that made me genuinely angry. Ryan had never been financially trapped by me. We divided expenses according to income because I earned more, and I covered the larger share without holding it over him. I opened 2 years of transaction history. The records showed Ryan contributing roughly $650 towards shared housing costs, while I covered around $1,150, along with utilities and other expenses. There were also payments from me for groceries, trips, dinners, and the $900 watch I'd bought him for his birthday. I didn't want our breakup to become an endless online war. Then a mutual friend messaged asking whether Ryan's claim about financial control was true. Silence was no longer protecting my privacy. It was helping him rewrite the story. I posted a small set of screenshots with account details removed. Since financial abuse is now being implied, here is the actual arrangement. I paid the larger share of our expenses because I earned more, covered most dates, and regularly sent Ryan money for shared costs. I added the watch receipt and several representative transactions. Then I wrote, "You can decide whether that looks like financial control." Within an hour, people who had believed Ryan started contacting me. One friend said he'd told them I forced him to pay half of everything despite earning much less. Another apologized because she'd believed I controlled every financial decision in the apartment. That evening, Ryan called. This time I answered. "Take it down," he said. "You're making me look horrible. You publicly implied I financially abused you. I never used your name. Everyone knew who you meant. You're trying to ruin my life. Correcting a false accusation isn't revenge. Stop lying about me and I'll have nothing else to post." His voice softened. "People are calling me a gold digger." I told him I wasn't responsible for strangers harassing him. "Then delete your post, please." "No, you don't get to accuse me publicly and ask me to defend myself privately." The softness disappeared. "Fine, my lawyer can deal with it. Give him my number." Ryan hung up. No lawyer ever called. His post about financial pressure quietly disappeared a few days later. Marcus messaged me instead. "You've made your point. Ryan knows he screwed up and all of us are paying for this. Can you please stop dragging it out?" I replied once. I posted after Ryan made false claims about me. "Tell him to stop talking about me and I'll have nothing to correct." Marcus never answered. By then, the book club boys were turning on each other. A meeting at a bar ended with Marcus, Dylan, Chris, and Ryan arguing about who had created which ratings and who had encouraged the spreadsheet. Nobody wanted responsibility. They only wanted someone else to carry more of it. After that, I stopped paying attention to what happened between them. Then I ran into Ryan at the grocery store. He froze when he saw me near the produce aisle. I gave him a small nod and kept walking. I finished shopping, paid, and headed toward the parking lot. I was almost at my car when Ryan called my name. "Evelyn, wait." He stopped several feet away. "What do you want?" "Can we actually talk?" "We've already talked." "I need closure." "You got closure when I told you to leave." Ryan glanced toward the store. "I know I made mistakes, but what happened afterward has destroyed my reputation. I didn't create the spreadsheet or the accusations you made about me. Everyone thinks I'm a horrible person now. How can you be this cold after 2 years? I stopped reaching for my car door. We were together for 2 years, and during some of that time you were rating my salary, assets, and financial potential with your friends. Ryan lowered his eyes. I did love you. That part was real. I believed him. Maybe you did, but apparently love wasn't enough without the right salary attached to it. Ryan had nothing to say. I put my groceries in the car and left. That night, I blocked his number. For almost 2 weeks, he stayed silent. Then an email arrived with the subject line, "I owe you a real apology." I left it unopened until the next evening because I expected another defense disguised as remorse. When I finally read it, Ryan admitted the spreadsheet was cruel and that exposing it hadn't been the real betrayal. He also said he'd started therapy. Ryan wrote that years of conversations with Marcus and the others about salaries, property, marriage, and smart partners had slowly turned jokes into something they treated seriously. He admitted he'd stopped noticing how dehumanizing it was because everyone around him agreed with it. It explained how the behavior had become normal inside their group, but it didn't excuse Ryan's choices. Ryan also apologized for implying I'd financially controlled him. He admitted panic had made him desperate to justify his participation without admitting he'd chosen to participate. Then came the part I hadn't expected. I know I reduced you to numbers and metrics, and that was dehumanizing. You deserved someone who saw your whole life, not your paycheck. He said he understood if I never forgave him and asked whether we might someday be friends. I didn't answer. The apology mattered, but it didn't restore trust. Around the same time, Natalie told me she'd finally ended things with Chris for good. Sophie made the same decision about the man who had tracked her possible inheritance. When he insisted her grandmother's house was relevant because they had discussed building a future together, Sophie asked why it belonged anywhere near an evaluation of her romantic value. I didn't have an answer. She later sent me one message. Thank you for letting me know before the ring. That weekend, my mother asked whether I regretted making the group chat public. I thought about it before answering. I regret that it happened. I don't regret telling them. That was the truth. Work eventually returned to normal, and the internet moved on. Ryan's name disappeared from my notifications, and my phone finally felt like a phone again instead of evidence. Then I started thinking about the house. I'd already been considering buying before I discovered the spreadsheet, but Ryan had poisoned the idea for a while. Every listing reminded me of his note about pushing me toward home ownership. 2 weeks later, I opened the listings again. This time, I removed the neighborhoods Ryan liked and lowered the maximum size. I didn't need 3 bedrooms for the future we'd once imagined together. I wanted something close to work, with a small yard and enough space for one person. On Saturday morning, I toured a small house on a quiet street 20 minutes from my office. It had 2 bedrooms, an old kitchen, scratched hardwood floors, and a backyard that needed work. Ryan would have complained that it wasn't enough of an investment. I loved it. While the agent checked something outside, I stood in the empty living room and imagined a couch against one wall, bookshelves near the hallway, and a dog running through the backyard. None of those thoughts involved Ryan. I made an offer that afternoon. 2 days later, the seller accepted. Closing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. That night, I opened Ryan's email one last time. The final line read, "If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I still think about what we could have been." Months earlier, that sentence would have broken me. Now it only reminded me that what we could have been depended on pretending I hadn't seen what he'd done. I archived the email without responding. By the time my closing date approached, most of the noise from the group chat had finally disappeared. Ryan stopped posting about me, his friends stopped contacting me, and strangers moved on to something else. Natalie eventually started dating again, this time without feeling like she had to justify her career to anyone. I never decided our 2 years together had been fake. Ryan could have loved me and still treated me in a way I couldn't accept, and understanding that was enough. His apology also made one thing clear. Marcus may have created the spreadsheet, but nobody forced Ryan to update my salary, retirement account, or property plans. Those were his choices. I later heard through Aaron that Ryan was still in therapy and had stopped speaking to Marcus. I hoped he learned something from all of it, but I no longer needed to be part of that process. For a while, the spreadsheet made ordinary questions about work or money feel suspicious, and I knew I couldn't carry that distrust into every relationship after Ryan. I wasn't ready to date again, so I gave myself permission not to. The house became my next step. Closing went through without any problems, and 6 weeks after my offer was accepted, the agent handed me the keys. The place looked even smaller without staging furniture, but I loved it anyway. The second bedroom became my office. The kitchen needed new cabinet doors, the floors were scratched and the backyard was more overgrown than I'd remembered. None of it needed to impress anyone. Standing in the living room brought back one line from Ryan's spreadsheet. Needs pushed toward home ownership for maximum long-term ROI. Now it sounded almost ridiculous. I had bought a home because I wanted one, not because someone had decided it increased my value. I unpacked slowly over the next week. I bought a couch because it was comfortable and hung photographs because I liked them. Then I started looking at dogs. Ryan had always worried about shedding and scratched floors, so we'd postponed getting one. My new floors were already scratched, which solved half the problem. At the local shelter, I met a large mixed-breed dog with brown eyes and absolutely no understanding of personal space. He leaned his entire body against my legs within 30 seconds. His name was Murphy. He shed enough during our first meeting to cover my black jeans. The volunteer apologized and I laughed while filling out the adoption application. Murphy came home the following weekend. He inspected every room, drank his water too quickly, then fell asleep in the middle of the living room like he'd been paying the mortgage for years. I sat on the floor beside him. The house finally felt like mine. A month later, one of my co-workers stopped me near the elevators and asked whether I'd adopted the dog I'd mentioned. I showed him a picture of Murphy asleep upside down on my couch, and he laughed. At least he doesn't care about your 401k. That became my favorite joke about the entire disaster. Months later, I deleted the screenshots from my phone after saving one copy with the rest of my records. I didn't need to keep seeing them every time I searched through my photos. The spreadsheet had already done everything it was going to do. Money matters in serious relationships, but it should be discussed with your partner, not scored behind their back. Ryan once gave me an 8.5 out of 10 because of my salary, my savings, and what he thought I could add to his future. In the end, none of those numbers mattered. I wanted me to buy a house because it made me a better investment. I bought one after leaving him because it was the life I wanted. Ryan lost the woman he was so busy calculating. I lost a boyfriend who thought love needed a score. I think I got the better deal. Now I wake up in a house with my name on the closing papers, a backyard I chose for myself, and a dog who takes up most of my bed. No spreadsheet decided whether I was good enough. No group chat rated my future. And no man gets to calculate my worth again. Ryan wanted a high-value investment. What he lost was a partner. As for Murphy, he doesn't care what I earn. He just thinks I should spend more money on treats. For once, that's a financial recommendation I'm willing to consider.